Good afternoon. I'm Bridget Dillman-Cruz, Curriculum Specialist for Kohler Company, and welcome to our Facebook Live broadcast. Kohler has a 145-year legacy of environmental conservation, and sustainability continues to be part of our company ethos. We believe that business and sustainability are not mutually exclusive, but mutually beneficial, and that sustainability is a catalyst for both innovation and social responsibility. We're asking ourselves how we might change our mindset from a traditional linear manufacturing model to one that is more circular and regenerative. These concepts have led some of our associates to think about how we might look at our waste streams in a new way, to look at them as a commodity or an ingredient for a new product rather than trash that will be tossed into a landfill. Today we are fortunate to have some of those change agents with us. Teresa Millard, Monty Stauffer, and Josh Boyce. Welcome, guys. And let's go ahead and get started. Teresa, how did the Waste Lab get started, and why is it so personally important to you?
Hey, thanks, Bridget. The Waste Lab for me started in 2005. I was in Costa Rica for a biomimicry course. I went there for innovation, but what I really learned about was sustainability because of the richness of the ecosystem. It's really hard to stand in a situation like that and not notice how life is being formed in front of your eyes. So you see resource flows, materials, the waste from one organism is the food for another one. And what it really made me start to think about was the value of materials. I'm an artist and a craftsman, and I started to think about the materials that we're using back at Kohler and try to imagine how we could think about them in different ways. When I came back to Kohler, I started looking as an artist and a craftsman at the industrial waste stream. So this is foundry dust, for example. And what I realized was that we had a lot of materials within our processes that are a natural waste stream just from making products. So for example, the dust is collected in the foundry. We're protecting the workers with improved respirators and an improved dust collection system. So what that means is all the particulate is being taken out of the air and we're collecting it. So we have a lot of this dust, and we started to ask the question, what is this dust? Where does it come from? What's in it? And what could we do with it? So around 2010, we started to experiment. Jim Neiman actually was the artist at the time working with us. And he began to speculate that you could make ceramics out of the dust as a primary material. He collected clay waste streams as well. And this was the first tile that was made in 2014, which was the first product that looked like a product. So we made a lot of ugly things, I would say, along the way. But in 2014, this was the sort of the icon of what Waste Lab could be, taking dust and turn it into product.
So why do you think the Waste Lab is so important for Kohler Company?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. You know, as a manufacturer, I think we have a responsibility to the world to behave differently. And we have a chance for some industry leadership if we can take all the tools and the resources that we have. So mostly I'm talking about people, but the processes and the methods that we have at Kohler Company and start applying those to tricky problems. Industrial waste streams are an enormous issue around the world, and I think if companies can start to see waste streams as something different, they can lead the way from a brand, profitability, engagement point of view.
Great. Good. Thank you. Monty, as an artist and a maker, what's personally driving you to be here in the Waste Lab? What really inspires you?
Sure. Yeah. So for myself, the idea of the waste stream or the waste material is something that you don't typically see in a company. These are things that we have decided we want to do something with. So coming in and seeing what our trials are producing and what can we do with each of those materials, it gives us, like you said, the inspiration would be, what can it be? What can it become as a new material or a new product? And one of the ideas is it's waste-bound or landfill-bound materials, so it has the purpose of it is a zero at that point, but we're taking it and we're using it and we're turning it into something else. So the inspiration is, what can we do positive with this material? Of course, we want to make a profit. We want to make a nice product to sell, but we also want to reduce the amount of waste that's going to the landfill. So we're looking at the ceramics materials, some of the resin materials, iron dust, like Teresa mentioned, and we're doing unique things with it. We're trying to make a waste material that can also be used as something beautiful or something useful. So the inspiration for the tiles comes from just playing with the materials. So we get a color out of it, and we get a nice pressed tile with it. So just seeing those outcomes inspires us to make more, inspires us to make something different. We don't really know what those will be until we've played with the material a bit. So the inspiration comes from that as well, from actually using it.
Right.
One of my professors told me once in school that, the minute you fire something in ceramics, it's permanent. It becomes that object forever. So, we're taking these materials and trying to make something wasteful but permanent, that was wasteful, and make it into something beautiful that's permanent. So we really want to think about that before we're making it. And I think we have come to a point where we're doing that. We're making some really beautiful items.
So that's the maker's point of view. But Josh, you come from a very technical engineering background. So can you talk a little bit about what it's like being an engineer and working in this creative environment?
Sure. So I have a ceramic engineering and material science background, and I've worked for various companies that make new products, or I've worked on materials that are feeding into existing product streams. What makes this different is that nobody's looking at these as raw material streams right now. They're literally looking at them as trash. And we, as Kohler, aren't really a raw materials company. We're a manufacturer. We generally pay other people to source the raw materials and to size them and do chemical analysis for us. So we're having to do that ourselves, literally out of a dumpster. And so, the first thing that we do when we start working with any of our divisions is we go to the dumpsters out back that are headed to the landfill and dig through them and see what's something that's interesting, what's something that we can use. So an example of that is we have slag that comes from our cast iron division. This is an impurity that's pulled off of the cast iron melt. And we were doing a tour of the landfill one day, and I saw this and thought, boy, that looks a lot like lava rock. And there's some really beautiful quality about it, this high iron glass. And so we brought some back, and I ground it up by hand and mixed it with some of our glazes. And we were able to get a nice red color and a brown and a yellow. And so now we have a few of these, and it's up to us to try to figure out, how do we replicate that? What do we need to do? How consistent is that raw material stream? So it's a lot of fun. We get to play with new things all the time. And there's not always an expectation that you're going to get a winner.
Great, thank you. Teresa, we've often heard you talk about the Waste Lab as a living case study between sustainability and business, the intersection of those two. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Sure. I think doing sustainability can be hard, and people, generally speaking, want to do better in the world, but they don't know how to get started. So what we think about ourselves is if we could take something that's like this and produce something that's like this, then you can begin to see how you might be able to make something that is a real product. So I count ourselves as a living case study because people want hope. They need optimism that these global issues can be solved. So if we can turn waste into something super useful, then it's a way that they can internalize a solution to a difficult problem. We want people to fall in love with materials again, I would say. I think in the modern age, we've sort of fallen out of love with materials. We've become very throwaway as a culture. And again, it's this question of they can see themselves in this place doing things which are interesting and beautiful that add value. I think of this, as just a starting place for Kohler relative to circular economy. The circular economy needs to become second nature for everybody in the world. 3 billion middle-class consumers will want what we've got. There won't be resources to make all of the new products and services that we have, and there won't be places to put the waste streams. So by us demonstrating what we're doing, I think it gives other people ideas of things they can do, and it also shows that it's possible to make this a business initiative. And I suppose that's what I really think. It really is important that we can show people a way forward.
Great, thank you. Josh, I know that you've talked a lot about in recent days how our Kohler associates are really excited about coming to the Waste Lab. Can you talk a little bit about how people have come here from the office side, say, and
Sure.
and the projects that they've been working on with you?
Yeah, so we're a pretty small team, and we've been in our physical space for about 5 months. And as time has gone on, we've had quite a few people come through and tour, and we're getting to a place now where those people that are coming through are wanting to actually get involved and be hands-on with us. So like currently we've got a group of associates that come by on a Friday afternoon, and they may not have an engineering or a making background, but they want to be involved, and so we find ways to get them involved with projects that we have going on right now, or give them some discrete tasks that they can work on and help them feel like they're more a part of the process. And even our executives have come through and been very energized by what we're doing. Back in December, we had David Kohler, our CEO, come through, and he lent a lot of support to our project. And it was funny as he was coming through, he was seeing a few of these one-off samples and saying, like, oh, that's beautiful, we should get these to market. And I'm like, okay, they're cool, we agree, but these are the only ones that we've made so far. So it's really fun. Nobody walks out here and sees what we're doing and walks away and they're like, no, I don't want to be involved. So it's been a challenge for us finding ways to get everyone involved in a meaningful way.
Cool, very cool. Thank you. Monty, we're seeing that our associates are getting inspiration from this place, but what do you get inspiration from? What happens when you're out here? What are your aha moments when you're working with new materials?
Sure. For me, it's playing with the material. It's working with the material. We're trying to make equipment do things that probably wouldn't normally do, and to make tiles, we're using presses and things. So just making continuous samples or making small iterations of something, and you'll see what we did before, and yeah, we can tweak the system a little bit and make something else. So we started. So one of the molds we made were sort of really complicated parts, but what we did is we looked at that and thought, okay, what can we eliminate, or how can we make it more efficient? So we did these floating. Thought of the idea of making a floating die that just uses the press and one motion to eliminate a couple of the steps, and it inspired us to, okay, now we can maybe do 2 at a time, or 3 at a time, or 4 at a time, and just little things like that where you look at a process and you see simple little ways where you can change either the tooling or the machine or the equipment to make something else that you didn't think you could make before. So I know a lot of the people that are coming out are helping with that as well. They'll see little ways that we're doing things and make suggestions and things. So it's all about the process and the iterations that you get from the material.
And I assume that since you're a small team, you're all learning a lot of new skills. I mean,
Sure.
you wouldn't normally be the tool maker for the team. Right?
Normally you could buy a mold or you would buy a plate that would do
Pay
this for
someone
you.
to make it for
yeah,
you.
but we're getting free material. This mold was made from free material from the pottery. So we're taking advantage of all those things as well. And we realize this is a good material for us, and it allows us to do quick iterations and make some changes. So yeah, it's a unique process that we're learning ourselves, and yeah, for sure.
Great, wonderful. Teresa, what are the next steps for your small team? What do you guys envision for the future here?
Our priority is getting tile to market. So you can see this is pretty nice looking tile of one of the samples that we're working towards. There's lots of mundane things that happen when you have to bring a tile to market. So technical development, aesthetic guidelines, packaging, what's the order process, lots of mundane things that have to be done. So we've got both the exciting and interesting things, going out to the landfill, finding treasures, fixing up tools and molds, but also getting product to market. We have some special projects coming to us. So we have an exhibit in Austria that we're working on, which we're pretty excited about. So we're making some special art tiles for that. We're making tiles for Kohler campus projects, gifts and awards for people who want to have something special, one of a kind. So because Monty and Josh are so great at making small iterative process items, that's kind of cool. I think really we have to focus on what's our next generation of products. So what materials will we work with? What products will we make? What processes might we want to employ? And then, we've all talked about this, of bringing people on board with us, so internal and external folks. We know that we cannot do this alone, so we need other people to participate. We have our Friday afternoon team who come here and help us. We've got some conferences we're presenting at, and just really getting the Kohler teams out here, I think, is a critical thing to help bring the whole thing forward.
Great, thank you. I think we might have some questions from our Facebook friends.
How can the Waste Lab be good for business?
So the question was, how can the Waste Lab be good for business? I don't know which one. Teresa,
I can take it. I think there's several needs that a business has. Obviously, profitability. So we're working hard from a financial point of view to work towards at least self-sufficiency at the beginning, profitability. I think from a brand point of view, it's very interesting. Our customers want to buy from companies who are doing a good job in the world. I think on the brand side, it's really a critical issue. Also, we can help others do better. If someone's putting an installation or building a hotel, I think that works well. I suppose the most important thing, though, is back to the engagement of associates. We have 35,000 associates globally. Imagine if all of them started to think about what they were doing on a daily basis with material use and consider things to be valuable.
Great, thank you. And another question?
How do these tiles compare to virgin materials?
Oh, that's a good question. So the question was, how do these materials, when making tile, compare to using virgin material to make the tile?
Maybe these guys can do that.
So maybe Monty, can you talk about maybe aesthetics and design?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously it's garbage. It's considered garbage. So we do have some limitations because of that. But we don't want it to look like that, obviously. So by doing testing and doing some trial and error and mixing the materials, we've been able to come up with a pretty decent palette. We're working pretty closely with designers from Sachs and some communications people that have given us some feedback. And I think the colors that we're producing are they're indicative of the material itself. These are natural looking. The shapes are shapes that people would want in their homes, and from the feedback we've gotten, the colors are desirable. So we definitely want people to buy them and things. So we're not going to make them if they're not beautiful. So that's definitely a driver.
Great. And then from a technical point of view, I assume there's a little bit of difference in using virgin material versus found material, if you will.
Yeah, in all reality, the materials that we've got, we can size and sort appropriately, and we can use them as if they were a brand new material. So technically, they should be the exact same as any other tile that you would purchase off the market.
Okay, great. So if people want more information about the Waste Lab, they want to see, I know we have a great video that shows you guys in action. Where might they find that information?
We have a microsite, wastelab.kohler.com. I'm sure if you were to look on YouTube, you'll find our video. Kohler.com has links to sustainability programs at Kohler. You can find us there. I think we're pretty easy to find.
Okay, great. Well, that's it from us today. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.